Hello, everyone. We're live. Welcome to Userlist. Today, our amazing guest is the one and famous Brennan Dunn, the master of email automation and co-founder of RateMessage. And today, we're going to talk about replicating one-on-one sales with your email automation tool. That's what Brennan has been doing for a couple decades, as it seems, online.
Not that long, just about a decade I've been doing email or doing like
All right.
selling for email. So not a couple yet.
Awesome. So I will bring you on stage now. The stage is all yours. You've got the slides, but before we do
Yep.
that, a couple housekeeping notes. We got the Q&A section after you're done with the presentation. So anyone, if you've got questions, there is a questions tab somewhere on the right-hand side. Please drop your questions in there and we'll be happy to review them afterwards. All right, Brennan, there should be the sharing button on the bottom of the screen. It's all yours.
Trying to figure out how to, okay, so click share. I'm going to share my whole screen and hopefully you'll see my slides in a second. Can everyone see okay? Can you see that?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to go into my full screen mode, so I'll have no idea if anything breaks or anything. So just let me know, Jane, if, I don't know, anyone.
Well, totally do. And of course, we'd love you if you give a quick introduction about RateMessage and what you do before diving into the topic, in case some of our guests don't know about you. That'd be great.
Of course. Yeah. So my name is Brennan Dunn. I juggle a few different things at the minute. My two main projects are RateMessage, which I co-founded a few years back. We started out as website personalization software, but we're shifting more toward segmentation software. And my other thing is Create and Sell, which has a number of different courses and products under it. And if you've seen me on Twitter lately, you'll know that my big passion project at the minute is now a thing called Pladio, which used to be called the Creator Email Template Pack. And I've made that a SaaS recently. So yeah, I keep myself kind of busy. So yeah, I like Jane mentioned, I've been doing email in some shape or form, or I should say email marketing, for about 10 years now. Started off with my first software company, PlanScope, where, typical kind of SaaS circa 2011, 2012. And that's really where I got my first kind of real experience doing this stuff. And then I sold that company, started a company called Double Your Freelancing, which kind of is where I really got into email, and built that list to just over 50,000 people. It's still around today, but I'm not as day-to-day any longer in the business, but it's still something I'm running. And then 2016, 27, I think it was 2017. Yeah. I started RateMessage with my business partner, Shai, and Create and Sell is about a year old. So yeah, I've gone from kind of more on the freelancing side with PlanScope and W Freelancing to now on the marketing side with RateMessage and Create and Sell. So yeah, this is a brand new talk. I've practiced it a few times, but I have no idea how long it'll take today. So hopefully you'll get a lot out of what I'm going to be covering. I've tried to make it, it's obviously, with something this short, we can't get too in the weeds with technicals, but what I'm going to be presenting today is really one of the things that whenever I work with anyone, whether it be on a consulting basis or somebody just hires me for an hour to pick my brain, this is usually what I recommend in terms of the most effective way that you can leverage marketing automation in your business, as I'll explain more. Okay, so quick backstory. Like I mentioned before, I was doing what I'm doing nowadays. My full-time day job, if you will, was a company called W Freelancing. We sell, I should say, info products, so courses and so on. Used to do conferences. And in 2016, when I started, or 2017, I started a company called RateMessage, and I effectively was giving up a very sizable one-person company. So as you can see here in 2016, W Freelancing did pretty healthy for, a one-man band. And I ended up deciding to step away from this business entirely and co-found a company called Right Message. So we raised some money, brought on a co-founder, hired a team, did all the usual kind of startup-y things. But even though I stepped away from my day-to-day responsibilities at W Freelancing, I had a secret weapon. I ended up bringing on an incredible partner who helped me at W Freelancing kind of take the reins from me so I could go full time on Right Message. And this hire was incredible. So he basically worked nonstop, didn't really have a life, never asked for a holiday, never asked for time off, did all the queuing and scheduling of all of my emails, coordinated pitch sequences. So helped me make really good money over email by doing all the pitching and stuff like that. And also worked to uncover pain points of customers, objections they had to buying, and so on and so forth. And their salary was less than $400 a month. So you're probably guessing where this is going. That rock star employee of mine that took over W Freelancing for me was my email marketing platform. So in this talk, I'm going to show you much of what I did to enable myself to step away from a very successful business that did very well over email, to leave it entirely and start something new, and what I put into place before I left. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on today. So what I'm going to show you is going to allow you to leverage the email platform you're already paying for, so something like UserList, and really turn it into your most valuable hire. And this hire is going to build your audience for you. It's going to profile and segment based on identity and need. It will help develop trust, brand recognition, and problem and product awareness for you. It's going to deliver personalized pitches for your products or services. And it's going to uncover and respond to any purchase objections that people might have. So the big thing that we need to think about before we can start thinking about technicals or what are we going to set up or anything like that is, what does it take to systematically create a customer from scratch entirely over email? And the way I look at things is there's kind of 3 stages that need to be thought about and addressed. So you've probably heard of problem solution awareness or product awareness, or kind of the marketing-ish terms around this stuff. But I'm going to try to make it as clear as I can and share with you how I internalize things. So people have problems that lead to products, right? And in order for a product to be adopted, for a product to be purchased, there needs to be recognition that a problem can be solved, that a solution is actually attainable, and that a specific solution exists that is off the shelf, so a product. And that's really what we're talking about needing to develop, is a funnel, if you will, that will accomplish all of this for us. So get somebody who has a shared problem into this funnel. It does a lot of nurturing work to really highlight what the problem is, explain the implications of the problem left unfixed, introduces ultimately a few different ways of solving that problem, and then brings in a product, our product, as the fix, the best possible and safest way of fixing said problem. So before I get into the general outline, and this is probably, to be honest, if you're here and you're, follower of a user list, a customer of your list, I don't need to sell you on the virtues of email. But one of the reasons that I'm so focused on email specifically, as opposed to whether it be social media marketing or something like that, is I think email has 5 different attributes that really set it apart. So the first one is that it's relational. It's one-to-one. So I can use data that I have about a contact in a contacts database and transform an email template accordingly. So I can drop different bits of information, change sentences around, and so on and so forth, and really make my messaging much more relevant in a way that you just can't do on social media. If I tweet something, everyone sees that tweet, regardless of who they are or whatever else. It's the same content for everyone. Email is also life cycle based. So one thing that we're going to be talking about is how important it is to take advantage of automation in a way that it allows us to lead somebody on a prescribed journey in a way that we just can't do with more broadcast-based mediums. So broadcast-based mediums would be like me going in and sending out a newsletter today that goes to everyone on my list. Doesn't matter if they've been on it for months or for a day, everyone gets the same content. If I tweet today, everyone sees that content today. So again, email being one-to-one allows us to have more of a life cycle based way of approaching things, which is going to be really important for what we're going to be talking about. It's also permanent. So this is something also that I don't think a lot of us have really fully internalized. But if I get an email today while I'm doing this talk, and I will get emails while I'm doing this talk, I'm going to go to my inbox and I either need to read or get rid of or delete or whatever the emails that come in. But anything that happens on Twitter or Facebook right now, I'm probably not going to see. I only look at social media a few times a day. And when I do, I'm only shown a sampler of what actually occurred on my timeline. So email is permanent in the sense that I need to act on the messages that I receive, or I could just play ignorant and just let my inbox pile up. But us as good business people, we want to stay on top of our inboxes. Email is also universal. So for the most part, probably everybody that you're trying to sell to has an email account. So that's also, I know a lot of people talk about email being replaced or email dying. The fact of the matter is it's been going on about 50 years now in some shape or form, and it's still around. And I think one of the reasons that it's still around is it's decentralized, which is my last point. No one really owns email. There's no like Meta or Twitter or whatever else that owns email. And likewise, your email list is portable. You can take a CSV of all of your subscribers and move to a different platform or, so on and so forth. So this is why I'm so focused on email as opposed to other mediums. But the first two, specifically when it comes to this presentation, are the most important. That it's relational, and it allows for lifecycle messaging. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to encourage you to do, so I have, I think, 12 different steps, if you will, that I'm going to outline, and they're going to lead to kind of designing, if you will, or mocking out this ultimate system. The first thing that we need to be thinking about is, what is it that we're trying to get somebody to ultimately buy? So I'm going to put my own company, Right Message, on the spot here. So Right Message is website personalization software. It's also segmentation software. So in order for us to effectively sell Right Message, I need to get somebody to understand why they should even be considering or thinking about personalization. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is to think about what it is you're trying to get somebody to ultimately do, to buy your product, buy your course, whatever it is you're selling, and think about a free offering that shares the same problem, the underlying problem that your product fixes, and can be used as a way of getting somebody effectively in the door. So in our case, we have an email course. It's a 7-day email course that is helping somebody who, they run a website, they're interested in conversion rate optimization, they want to make more money through that website. That's the profile of somebody we want, but they don't yet know they need website personalization software. So the job of this is to give somebody an educational 7-day email course that leads them to being ready, as I'll talk more about in a second, to be receptive to Right Message. So the first step is to deconstruct what you have that's paid and figure out what you can offer that's free, that shares the similar underlying target audience and pain points and so on. The second thing is, instead of doing the usual thing, which is somebody opts in to say that 7-day email course, instead of showing them hey, check your email and click a link, or hey, thanks, you're on the list, or something like that, what you really should be thinking about is, how can I use this opportunity right after they committed to getting my email course to find out more about specifically why they decided to give me their email address and join? So this is something that's really, really powerful. And very few people, frankly, are doing this. But if you can get information immediately on opt-in about who they are and specifically why they joined. So what problem led them to say, yeah, you know what, I am interested in this. Is it maybe that they have a website, they get good traffic, they just don't get many sales, or maybe they don't really know who's on their website, so they can't figure out what kind of products they need to develop or something like that. If you can capture this information, not only is it helpful from a general like profiling your audience point of view, but we're going to use this to make it so when we do eventually position and pitch the paid thing that this free thing we're developing relates to, we can describe it in such a way that it makes perfect sense to that person. So, what made them join the free course? What problem are they hoping that it will solve for them? Who are they? This is all going to be used, like I said, to make what you have eventually to offer much more relatable, and to make it so when you first get somebody on your list, you have more than just a first name and an email address. The next step, step 3, is once somebody's on your list, once somebody gives up information about why they're here. So just contextually, let me just share a few stats. Typically speaking, about 80-ish% of people across the board who do a confirmation page like this and have normal opt-in traffic, about 80% of people will engage and start, serving themselves, especially when you make it obvious why you're getting this information. You're doing it because you want to help them get better messaging from you, get better content from you. So if you do this right, basically 4 out of 5 people will give up information about who they are and what they need from you or why they joined. So what you can do with that information is that all important first email that you send immediately post opt-in. You can do a lot of really interesting things that really, in my mind, shock and awe them into realizing that they are in the right place for them. So this is an example of the double your freelancing initial email that somebody gets. So when somebody joins my list, I find out a bit about, are you full-time? What kind of work do you do? What's holding you back at the minute? And so on. And all of this gets used to develop an email like what you see on your screen right now. So in this case, this is a marketer. They're not yet full-time, but they have a small little kind of side agency that they're working on. And the thing that they're worried about is that they're not sure that they're good enough to really do this right, to really commit to this as a major endeavor. So in this case, if I knew that about you and you get an email like this, where it's not just substituting in random words, it's actually reshaping the bullet points and so on. I get so many replies to this email where people are just thankful that, they know that I'm just responding to the data they just gave me a second ago, but they like that I make it very clear that, look, you've shared this information with me, and I want to use it in such a way that I'm going to directly fix the things that you've highlighted already to me. So ultimately what we're doing with this, we're setting the stage for what we're trying to do, which is to ultimately lead them to a solution to the problem that they just shared with us. Before I get into step 4, I want to do a quick little detour, if you will, and explain a bit more about what I'm talking about when it comes to solutions and products and offers and so on. So you might have heard this example from me. I've been using it for years, but the way that I think about offers and products and solutions is, imagine that you go outside and it starts to rain and you're not really ready for that rain. So you get wet and you're cold and you're just not comfortable. So the problem would be that you are wet and you're cold. That's the thing that's affecting you. And the solution to being, the solution is not to get out of the rain. The solution is not to, I don't know, put an umbrella over your head or something like that. The solution is to stop being wet and cold. So it's really just the inverse of the problem. So the way I think about things is, the solution is the removal of the problem, and the offer is a way of getting from a problem to a solution. And the offer is where we come in. So Right Message is an offer where the problem is low conversions due to one-size-fits-all messaging. Right Message comes in as an offer and leads them to the solution, which is the removal of that problem. So higher conversions because they have, multiple variations to their messaging. So why this is important to realize is what we're going to be doing, or what I'm going to encourage you to do, is to present a few different ways of solving a problem to the people going through the sequence. So what are some different ways that somebody can start personalizing their content. So how can they use Liquid in their email platform? Or how can they do this? Or how can they do that? And really give away and show people a lot of ways that they can go from here to there. But ultimately, what we want to be thinking about is each of these different offers that we present. You know, if I'm stuck in the rain and I'm cold, I could stick a piece of cardboard over my head and I might stop getting rained on, which kind of in a way starts to solve the problem. But it's not a full, you know, I'm still damp. I'm still going to be, my clothes are going to be wet. Whereas if I were to go inside and change into a bathrobe and, you know, sit by a fire, that's like the ultimate way of solving that problem. And there are different ways in between, right? You could use an umbrella, you could put a raincoat on. And that's how I want you to think about this stuff, is that there's problems, solutions are really just the removal of the problems, and offers are different methods of either getting entirely to a solution or getting part of the way to a solution. So with that said, we want to be thinking about when we deliver this educational content in this email course to somebody, after they opt in, after we find out about who they are, we want to not just prepare them to buy from us. What we want to ultimately do is we want to prime them to fully understand the gravity of the problem at hand, specifically the problem that they've shared with us. So, you know, ideally, the sequence is going to have a specific problem that you tackle, but there's going to be inflections of that problem. And those inflections are discovered by that surveying that you do when they first opt in. So again, we're trying not to just prepare them. We're not just sending emails that are meant to sell. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get them to be receptive to being ready to buy from us, to being ready to be offered what it is we have that will get them from, you know, the problem of today to the solution of tomorrow. Another thing too that I really recommend most people do is, so you've probably seen email courses that have, you know, 7 emails sent one day at a time. Typically they're read only. So you finish an email and it says, great, you know, tomorrow I'll send you lesson 2. Great, I'll send you lesson 3 the next day. One thing that I recommend you do is to have a worksheet or something interactive attached to every single lesson that you send. So if you want this to seem like a premium thing, it can't just be, you know, 7 500-word emails. I highly recommend that you do something at the end of these emails that get people out of their inbox and to think about how they can apply what it is you just taught them to, you know, their life or their business. So case in point, screenshot here. It's my friend Andy at Rip Body. He has a great email course, and what he does is he helps people with fitness and diet and, you know, building muscle and stuff like that. So what he does in his free email course is he wants people to fully understand, you know, what are macronutrients and how should you be thinking about diet and how much protein you need to be getting in a day and so on and so forth. Because what he's ultimately going to be selling them or trying to sell them is his paid courses and coaching. But he needs people to be understanding of why this stuff is important before he can say, hey, I've got a course that's all about the different macro splits you need and the different proportions and so on and so forth. He needs people to first understand what the heck macros are. So what he does is he sends these great emails every day. And then at the end of each email, he links them to a type form where he gets them to, he does a bit of quizzing. So like, did you actually read what I sent you? What would you do in this case? But he also uses it as a way to get more segmentation data. So what you can do is you can think, well, I got some great information when they first opted in, but then I can learn more and more about them as they go through my email course so that future emails can be even more specific. Because ultimately what you're trying to do is get to the point where you know so much about why they're here and what they're struggling with, that when you come in with your product, you can respond directly to that and position your product in a way that makes sense given their unique needs. So I'm not going to prescribe like how many emails to send and how many days it should be in or whatever else. But ultimately, on average, most people tend to do about 7 or 9 emails, so a week or so of information. Really, all that matters is, did you effectively transform somebody? Did you get somebody the ability to self-assess and to potentially fix the problem at hand? So in our case, does somebody know what personalization is, why it matters, and different things that they can start doing using the tools and everything else that they already have to start personalizing their content. Because again, the job is not to make this a giant sales pitch for our product. Instead, it's to prepare somebody to be receptive, to be pitched ultimately on our product. So once I'm done with an email course, what I like to do is I like to send a summary email that includes a bonus download. So in this case, what you see here, this is with the email course for Double Your Freelancing. Somebody goes through my pricing course, and at the end of it, I send them, hey, so, a lot of people have found that, there's a lot of stuff I just covered it in the last 9 days. And one thing that I find that people have found helpful is this little script that I put together. So anytime you're potentially talking with a new client and you want to remember what questions you need to ask and so on to understand the value of our project, here's a little cheat sheet. It's taken from a course that I have, but I wanted to give it to you free. So now you're already giving them something in addition that goes beyond what they signed up for. They signed up for an email course. Now they're getting this free asset that they really didn't expect or really, know was coming, right? So once that happens, once you've wrapped up your email course, you've sent a summary email, the mistake a lot of people make is they go directly from an email course to a pitch. So they go from, free, great content, blah, 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 to buy. And that's a mistake. And I did that for a while. And I always wondered, why isn't this working as well as it probably should? And I came to learn after a lot of trial and error that the real reason was because I wasn't bridging together the free stuff with what I ultimately have to offer them that's paid. So what I recommend you do is to create what's called a bridge between your email course and your pitch sequence. So the bridge that I typically recommend most people set up is very simple. It's 2 emails. And really what you're trying to do in this is to do 2 things. The first is to wrap up what you taught for free. So here, now that I've taught you X, Y, and Z, here's some practical steps to start applying it. Here's some common roadblocks that people have in doing this stuff. And here's maybe some recommended tools or YouTube videos or podcast interviews that go a little deeper beyond what I covered in the course. Oh, and by the way, keep an eye out because next Monday, I'm going to be putting together a special promotion for, in this case, double your freelancing rate or right message or whatever else. I'll share more about it later in the week, but I just want to get this on your radar now. So that's a job of the Tuesday email. Then come Thursday, what you want to send is something that helps people get over the biggest impediment to transitioning from this is great information, it resonates with me, but can I really do this? Is it really something within reach for me? And that's where the imposter syndrome email comes into play. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is think about before you start pitching somebody to find an excuse or a way to put in front of them a ton of case studies or testimonials of customers of yours, people who have succeeded from what you have to offer, but without the context of your product. So what I mean by this is, everyone knows that you look at a sales page for a product, you see quotes and testimonials and all that stuff. But usually it's in the context of the product, right? It's in the context of, here's some testimonials about user list. But what you want to be thinking about is, well, if the email course that I've been sending people and the paid stuff all share the same underlying problem, the testimonials that I have, the social proof that I have really relates to the problem, right? Like if people have bought right message and they love it and help them increase conversions and get out of, one size fits all messaging and all that kind of stuff. If I can share those stories or share excerpts of the stories right now, before I've even introduced right message, what that accomplishes is, first off, it shows people others like themselves. Because if I'm going through an email course, I have no idea who else has gone through this experience or has, had this kind of problem where they've, tried to think about solving it and so on. I'm kind of in my own vacuum. But if he can show others like them who have been in their shoes, but have overcome the obstacles and gotten to that promised solution, then that's going to help them think, okay, well, these are people like me. This is doable. And it's going to start to slowly introduce the fact that you have a track record of helping transform people, namely customers, from problem to solution. So, you have this email go out on Thursday. The one for W freelancing is basically just a ton of bullet points with quick, short, 1 to 2 sentence quotes that lead to success stories on the website. So the job here is just to kind of overwhelm them with people like them who have gone through this process already and have gone from problem to solution. But then at the end of this email, you get a little more detailed about what's coming up next. So, hey, Monday at 10 a.m., exclusive discounts or exclusive bonuses, and I'll talk about this in a second, are coming your way. Make a note on your calendar. So that's really this is how we bridge. This is how we bridge the free course, the free email thing, the free email course, I should say, to the paid product. And again, they both share the same underlying problem. So what we're just trying to do here is to start shifting away from, here's some stuff, here's how you can understand what's at stake and the importance of this problem and what the implications are and so on. Now we're starting to talk about, there's something coming on the horizon that is going to be the ultimate offer that will get you from problem to solution. So where this is all kind of culminating is the biggest mistake I think that you can make as a business owner is to need to both educate and sell simultaneously. And here's what I mean by that. You don't ever want to bring somebody to a sales page and first convince them why it is they need a product like yours that can do, this and that. And then also simultaneously try to then convince them that the thing you have is the ultimate way of, once they understand why they need this, here's the thing that will actually help them, get from A to B. And the whole job of the sequence, you heard me mention creating a customer before. What we're trying to do with this is we're trying to just get somebody to be on the same wavelength as us so that we can present our offer and say, hey, you already know the importance of getting out of this problem. You know what's at stake. You know what the solution is. You know why it's important for you to get there. So I've equipped you with a few different ways of doing that. You can go out and, build your own software, hire your own coder. There's a lot of different, maybe email platforms out there, different things you can do and so on and so forth. But I want to tell you why what I have to offer or what we have to offer is the ultimate way of going from here to there. Especially if you've been, nodding in agreement with what I've been saying over the last few days with the email course. And this really gets summed up as the distinction between the long road versus the shortcut. So the long, rough road, in the case of Right Message, would be, okay, we've taught you about website personalization. We've taught you about segmentation. You know how to get your website in sync with your email platform and all that kind of stuff. There's some coding involved, but that's just how it goes. So the long road is you can go and hire a marketing inclined coder to build something custom for you. You're going to need to struggle to figure out exactly what needs to be built and how to build it and all the different stuff that comes with that. You're probably not going to get the right thing done the first time around, and you're going to need to pay a lot of money probably for maintenance costs and upgrades and all that kind of stuff. So that's the long road. I've taught you how to get to the solution, but if you want to get to it pragmatically, well, this is what you need to do. You need to do this kind of stuff. Or I have a shortcut, and the shortcut is we've baked all the different things, the 9 lessons of content that I've shared with you in the email course. That is baked into the philosophy of this product, into this offer that I'm going to be giving you. It's supported by me, the person who sent you this email course, who you've gotten to kind of know over the last few days. We're intentionally opinionated. So if you agree with what I had to say in the email course, you're going to love the product because it completely exemplifies that. And also it's going to be easy to set up, easy to use. Oh, and we'll help you get started and so on. So you're basically trying to give somebody 2 outlets. Really, there's 3. There's the long road of do it yourself. The shortcut of our product, our offer is the easiest and most foolproof way of getting from here to there. And the third, really, which I didn't mention, is to do nothing and to just say, that was good information. I understand that I'm losing money. I'm losing out on conversions, missing out on sales, but we go back to what I was doing. But we don't want to make that obvious. We want to basically give people the decision to say, look, do you want to do it yourself, which is risky, or do you want to go with us, which is safe? And that's basically what we're trying to do with our pitch. We don't need to convince them because they already know, if they're still here, why they need the problem solved. We're just trying to convince them that going with us is the safe and economic alternative. So with the pitch sequence, so, this is going to be automated. So we have the automated emails that go out during the email course. We have the automated bridge. The pitch is also going to be automated. And what I typically recommend most people do is, for most of us, it can be like a Monday through Friday window where if they sign up for the product or buy the course or whatever it is you offer between Monday through Friday, there will be some sort of incentive for them to do that. Because if you just tell them, oh, and by the way, I have this thing called a user list, you should sign up. There's no impetus for them to do it right then and there. And I think most people I want to say that most of us have best intentions to say, yeah, I understand that I need a user list. I really like what Jane had to say over this email course, but I've got so much going on that I don't have the time. I'll come back to it. But left to our own devices, we probably won't come back to it. We get distracted and so on and so forth. But if you've done a good job establishing the need for what it is you have to offer and establishing the impact of the problem at hand, then I think you owe it to the people on the other end to give them a really good idea of why they should stop what they're doing and move forward and solve the problem right now. And there are 9 different methods, I think, of creating urgency that I've seen, or I'm sure there's more, but these are the things that I think I couldn't really think of not more than these 9. So if you have any ideas, definitely let me know. But I think for most of us who, whether we're selling online courses or software or even services like consulting, it could be a discount. So, hey, usually user list is $100 a month, but if you sign up this week, we'll give you a permanent discount of 20%. Discounts work probably best out of every other method I've tried, but I know a lot of us are reluctant to discount our products. You could also try bundling. So maybe you have a workshop you've done that's paid. You could give that for free on top. If they sign up for user list this week, they get this bonus workshop or something. Maybe you only have it offered for a limited time. So this doesn't really always apply for software, but for like courses, this is usually the model where they'll shut down enrollment for a course, and then every 3 months they open it up with a really heavy hitting email, pitch sequence. And the urgency is really, there's no other time to buy this except for right now. And you see this a lot with cohort-based programs. Shifting to software, you could try an extended trial. So if they sign up this week, instead of 14 days, they get 30 days. You could offer concierge onboarding, where maybe you typically charge for that. But if they sign up this week, you'll help them get personally onboarded for free. Maybe you offer them a strategy call if you're doing any sort of consulting or coaching, where they get a 30-minute free call, usually valued at $200 or something. They can get that for free. Bump them up to a higher tier. If they sign up this week, they can get on the gold tier for the price of the bronze tier. Offer them quarterly reviews if they sign up this week. Every 3 months, your team will assess their account, log into their account, and send them an email with some ideas on what they could do better. Or maybe send them swag. So send them a t-shirt, send them a hat with your logo on it. Ultimately, though, you want to have some sort of urgency that gets people to move and take action right now. So the unfortunate reality is most people, after they've gone through your email course that you've put all this work into and your bridge and your pitch, majority of people aren't going to buy. And that's fine and that's expected. But I think I'm going to show you why this is important in a second. But one thing that you should be thinking about is, well, if somebody ignored your pitch, you had these great bonuses, these great discounts, these great, concierge onboarding. If they still said no, why did they say no? So what I'm going to encourage you to do is, after a pitch, send them a very simple email that says, hey, thanks for going through the course. First off, I hope you really got a lot out of it. And, now that and hopefully you've seen now understand what right message is and so on and so forth. I noticed you didn't end up signing up for a trial of right message, which is perfectly cool. But just for my, for my own purposes, so I can do better stuff in the future, I'd love to know, and none of this is, don't use anything I'm saying now as actual copy. I'd love to know what held you back. Was it due to the price? Do you just not have the time at the moment to invest in getting set up with the right message? Are you not sure a right message will work for you? Or did you miss the deadline? So it really boils down to price, time strap, dubious return on investment, or missed deadline. And why I love this email is, so long-term consulting client of mine, Spreadsheeto, they added this simple email that you see on the right side of your screen to the end of every pitch that they do. So non-buyers get this email the following week. And what they've been able to do is add about 10% of their to their overall sales from the sequence, just from this one email. Because what they've done with this is they've said, look, thanks for putting up with the email pitch. I'd love to know what held you back. And they list out the options, and you can see here on the left how people answered. So about a fifth of people missed the deadline. Maybe they were on holiday that week. They joined your email course a few weeks ago. Last week you pitched them, but they were on vacation. If they missed the deadline, what happens is they click that link, and then immediately you get another email saying, hey, happens to the best of us. It's good that you were away from your inbox for a week. I hope you had some great time off the grid. Here's another 24 hours that you can have to take advantage of last week's offer. And a sizable percentage, I think it's like 20% of people who click that end up buying within 24 hours, which is pretty great. But the biggest one in their case is about half the people say it's too expensive. So this is really good because they get this kind of big picture perspective of why are people not buying, but they can also use this individually and say, well, if they said it's too expensive, I can segment them. And then maybe a week later or 2 weeks later, I can start sending them emails about the guarantee. We're sending them emails about the insane ROI that other customers have had and how this is an investment, not just an expense. And you can really take into account, if you can listen, if you can say, look, if their objection is price, if their objection is they don't have the time, well, what does that mean? If they don't have the time, it means it's not a priority for them. It's like, if somebody says they don't have the time to get healthy. Well, we all know that means it's not a priority. So how do we then use future messaging to show somebody why it's so important to prioritize solving this problem? And again, when you have the problem at the root of all this, from your email course to the pitch, it gets a lot easier, I think, to think about this stuff and to act on it. So ultimately, what I've just described at a very high level is an email course that leads to a bridge, that leads to a pitch, that then leads to a post-purchase survey, or not a post-purchase, but a post-pitch survey. And it's a funnel, it's a system that is marketable, that is something that you can go and promote on podcasts. You could go and, when you could do a guest post, you could link to it. It's something that you can put out there. And what I would generally recommend for a lot of us would be for things like our marketing website, or the key pages on our marketing site, the homepage, userlist.com, userlist.com/pricing, those kind of pages. Absolutely push the product, push your product. These are people who are looking at your features. These are people who are looking at your pricing. They're product aware. They know, that's what you want to put in front of them. But if somebody goes to your blog from Google and they've typed in something like, how do I segment my email list? Absolutely prioritize not pitching your product, but instead putting this system front and center. Because what this is a system that is designed to meet somebody where they are today. So, hey, you have this problem. I understand you have that problem. Here's some ideas on how you can self-solve this problem. You then lead them through that. They become, equipped with more information than they had before. They know how to now confidently solve the problem. They look up to you as an authority and an expert. They, in a way, are indebted to you because you've helped them in a lot of different ways so far by getting them all this great information at really, you're not bait and switching, you're giving them legitimate information. And now you said, look, there are two paths, do it yourself or us. Choice is yours. Like, and you lead them to that. But this is such an incredible tool once you have it developed to promote everywhere. So when I go on back when I was doing W freelancing more, I'd go on a pricing, I talk about pricing, talk for half an hour about pricing theory. And at the end of it, instead of where can people find out more about you and giving off like a Twitter handle and stuff like that, I would say, hey, if you want to go deeper than I was able to cover in the last 30 minutes into this pricing stuff, go to freepricingcourse.com. It's a 7-day it was 9-day email course I put together on this that goes much deeper than I was able to do in this interview. That worked incredibly well. Same if I go out on a stage and give a talk at a conference or wherever. And my focus was get people in here, let this create the customers for me. So ultimately what I'm trying to do with this is, which kind of cycles back to when I was able to get away from W freelancing to focus on right message and let the system work to maintain cash flow, was this allows us to become, quote, lazy email marketers. And by lazy, I mean, it just means spending less time logging into user list and writing emails, because we have systems in place that do the usual nurturing and pitching and segmentation for us. Instead, it gives us more time to spend on acquisition. So building partnerships, going on podcasts, doing guest posts, or R&Ding new products or services, or focusing on customer success, or just getting away from the computer. And the other side of the coin, which I think is often missed when it comes to automation, is it leads to better customers and a happier audience. Because what we're able to do with this is we're able to send more relevant messaging, because the communication is revolving around the individual rather than your content calendar, rather than your sending schedule. It's around them, not you. The segmentation data that you're collecting is not used to just populate a spreadsheet or to populate a chart. It's instead used to reshape the future messages. So how you pitch, how you mention different things about your product. Because ultimately, if you can be more relevant, it leads to more engagement. So people are more likely to read what you're sending if it's more relevant to them, which if they get to the end of your sales pages or your emails, they're more likely to convert, which means more sales for you. So finally, in summary, how can you first reverse engineer your paid product into a free email course that's focused on the same underlying problem? Come up with the segmentation questions that you can ask when someone joins the free thing that will then influence later on how you sell your paid. How can you equip someone with the know-how to self-solve the problem at hand, while then pitching your product as the best way to solve this problem? And then finally, how do we use the system to also uncover sales objections that you can use to individually repitch and also holistically reevaluate your messaging? So if a lot of people are saying the same thing, maybe you need to do something different about how you write your sales page or write the email sequence or whatever else. So if you can answer and execute these questions, then you'll have created your most valuable hire. That's all I have. Thank you. Again, this is a new talk, so apologies for any stumbling through. But yeah, hopefully it was helpful, and I can answer any questions you guys have for me.
Thanks so much, Brennan. This was amazing. We do have plenty of questions. And by the way, some of the questions in the audience quite match the ones that I would love to ask you. And one of those, so let's just start with some of them that are more relevant to the lead magnet problem. And
okay.
The first question would be, that is by Brett. Do you feel that email courses are still relevant and effective today as compared to other lead magnets? If not, what are those popular ones?
Yeah, so I think in terms of what, the various kind of lead magnets, there are downloadable lead magnets, so checklists or reports or whatever else. And then there's email courses. I've seen Community as a lead magnet now, where people invite you to like a Facebook group or something like that. I think the thing I like about email courses over downloadables are, if I download an ebook, it tends to be very transactional, right? I get the email, the ebook, it sits in my downloads folder. I'm probably not going to read it. And just it's something I wanted it in the moment, but usually what happens is I get the ebook. That's the lead magnet. Then I'm dumped into a newsletter. And there's nothing that guides me through the ebook or kind of walks me through step by step, chapter by chapter, or anything. And I think that's a mistake. If you can do that, if you can deliver a report or an ebook or something like that, and then and maybe it's not an email course, but it's maybe a sequence of emails that are, kind of like a virtual book club, if you will, that walks them through the different things that are covered in the book that achieves the same end goal, which is you being a presence in their inbox over a longer period of time, where it's not just a transactional thing that they can forget about. Because let's face it, I'm on Twitter on my phone at, in bed. I see something cool. I opt into it. I'm not going to read it on my phone. Then the next day on my computer, the email about like, here's the free book or whatever, it gets lost. And now I'm just going to get their newsletters. And it's just, if you are going to deliver an asset like a PDF, just send out something like an email course afterward. Don't call it an email course. Just call it something. It doesn't need to have a name. It just has a name to you that guides them through it. And ideally also links them back to it. So if they're on a different device, at the end of each email, link them back to that PDF that you sent them originally, in case they can't find it.
Yeah, so you've got to have that lead nurture sequence anyways. That's what you've been describing. Call it an email course or anything, you've got to have it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very cool. How do these automation and customization relate to GDPR prohibitions on automated decision making and profiling?
Yeah. So I'm not a lawyer, but we did consult with an attorney, UK-based attorney, when we started Right Message, because we and GDPR kind of came out around the same time. So, the big thing is, my understanding is, as long as you're making it obvious that you are collecting and people are consenting to this data, personalizing content or sending email with conditionals that say, show this paragraph if they like the color blue and show that if they like the color green. Assuming that somebody has actively said, they tick the right box and they're now answering questions in a survey you sent them. In my mind, that's 100% okay when it comes to all things GDPR. I think the spirit, if you will, of GDPR seems to just be more centered on transparency. And I'm not, when people fill out the survey, if you remember on that the slide I had a while back, but the welcome page survey post opt-in was saying, these are optional questions, but this will help me send you more specific content, in future. So, they don't need to answer these questions. No one's forcing them.
One of the questions was related to this survey, and that was a question from Richa. Hope I'm getting that right. How do you deal with possibly the options given for, the survey response as other? Like, what do you do?
Yeah. I can tell you what I do. So let me start with a story. So I had other on Double Your Freelancing. When people would opt in, I'd ask them what kind of work you do. Be a developer, designer, marketer, copywriter, business consultant / coach. And then I had other, right? People would choose other. And what I would do is I would have an email sequence that would be triggered by the selection of other. So if they chose other, a few hours later, they get an email saying, hey, thanks for joining my list. I saw you selected other, and I'd love to know in your own words what it is you do. And I get a lot of good replies to that. But the thing that honestly frustrated me was I would get people saying, well, I do logo design. I'm like, why didn't you choose designer? Or I choose, I do branding or something. And it made me realize that there is a benefit to doing that for a bit and then ditching others. So people need to force themselves into, if you do branding, come on, you're a designer, right? So so I would rather them choose design so that when they get that email with all the case studies and testimonials, they're seeing fellow designers listed because they're not going to care as much about coders who have benefited. They want to see people like them who have benefited.
Another question from Risha. If the eventual product is a course with videos, do you feel the emails should point to the videos to watch or have the lesson in email text form? That's about, mechanics of
the
it.
format. Yeah, that's great. I mean, honestly, that's something I frankly haven't, I haven't tested that myself, but I would think that videos would do really well as free content that leads up to a video course. Where you see this a lot, I think, is on more in the internet marketing space, where you see like video sales letters that lead to video courses, which obviously they tend to do well. My only issue is, as I tend to do things marketing wise that appeals to me, and I'd rather read something than, I'm fine watching a video course, but when it comes to emails, I don't want to get an email, click a link, and then not know what it's about until I watch a 10-minute long video or something. So yeah, I tend to do stuff based off of how I think I like to get, if that makes sense.
To send from me, I've just been watching Copy Hackers newsletter recently, and they include an image, a clickable image with a play button that obviously leads to an external video elsewhere, but they also provide written version inside email, and that's the best of both worlds if you can do that.
If you have the time to do that, great. Yeah, I think that I would like that, because I mean, if I was on that, which I do get Jonah's email, so I've seen that too, where, I mean, I've never watched one. Let's just put it this way: I've never clicked on the videos, but I do read her text. But again, there's probably plenty of people who do the complete opposite.
How do broadcast emails play in this mix for someone who refused to buy after the whole sequence? And
good. Yeah.
How do you qualify somebody for your broadcast later?
Yeah. So I would consider everything I just described as the onboarding stage. So typically I would not send, like, broadcast would be like a newsletter, like a weekly newsletter. I usually wouldn't send these people that until they're complete. So the way I look at things is, this is an onboarding sequence that leads into ultimately a long-term nurturing sequence. And long-term nurturing could be an evergreen newsletter, or it could be a live newsletter. Or just, some sort of cadenced content that's maybe not daily, but weekly or twice, fortnightly or something. But yeah, that's what I've done, is people go through this, I call this technically an LBPS, a lessons bridge pitch survey sequence. And then once they're done this, regardless if they buy or don't buy, they get pushed onto the newsletter at that point and are eligible to get that. So that's when they would get broadcasts.
When it comes to mechanics, we recommend in your software to have a segment named something like qualified for updates that excludes, leads who are going through leads nurturing or onboarding, customers who are going through user onboarding at the moment. So anybody who's like not actively going through anything will be qualified for other news broadcasts if you're sending real time. And it's just convenient because you don't think about this every time. You just hit, send this broadcast to qualified for updates segment, and you're done. This is clean. Nice.
Yeah. And that has, I think, the benefit too of, like, let's say you're going to do a big pitch to your entire list. That'll make sure that the people who joined 10 minutes ago are not getting that first hard-hitting sales email. So it kind of gives a bit of a buffer between when somebody first joins and when they get your other stuff, like you just mentioned. Yeah.
One question from Shlomo about downloadable PDF versus course. So basically you're saying turn your paid product into free email course sequence better than downloadable. And yeah, I guess that's what you're saying.
Yes. Or make it downloadable, which is have some sort of intentional follow-up specific to the download, rather than just saying, because what you usually find is you have like a form that's like your 10 top checklist form, or say, whatever, right? that people fill out the form, you send them over the PDF file with that first email, and now they're just dumped onto your list, and now they're getting at your live newsletter or something like that. And I think the mistake there is that that form is going to collect digital dust in their downloads directory. And what you should be thinking instead is, okay, well, they opted in because of a certain problem that this form relates to, or this PDF relates to. How do I walk them through this and then bridge them to being on my regular list? Or ideally, bridge them to be receptive to an early product. Because if you have this happening where you're pitching people within a week or two of them joining your list, and it's working with consistency, that opens up a huge, big new potential where you can start thinking, well, X% of people are buying within, say, a month, and the value on average is this. So start thinking about partnerships or paid ads or something like that, because you now are capturing systematically revenue within a certain window.
We're working with many SaaS companies over the years, and the biggest mistakes is just not having that funnel in place, because most SaaS just have a free trial call to action on their website, and they're like, fine, we've got a free offer, like this is our funnel, but this is not a funnel. Well, at best, this is a product qualified lead, but it's not going to take you anywhere to nurturing your leads at all.
And again, that's fine if somebody knows all about user list and types in userlist.com, like, don't get in their way. They're looking at software, right? But if they come across you from, an information channel, like a YouTube video or blog post you did or something like that, they're probably not looking for software. So yeah, absolutely. Like, get something that really, if they're looking for information, give them more information. That's what I usually recommend.
One last question for me personally. For challenging software, let's imagine you're selling Photoshop. There is no immediate problem it's solving. There is a dozen thousand use cases.
Yep.
What do you do?
So you just said Photoshop?
Yeah, my favorite example.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. I would think, well, let's say, okay, so let me go with Figma, since that's a bit, they're not Adobe. Same kind of thing, right? A design tool. Imagine that you went on to, what's that big, Smashing Magazine, right? And did a guest post about mock-ups or building design or something like that. Like, that's where I'd be thinking is, well, what are the different channels that lead people? So, let's go back to Photoshop. Photoshop appeals to photographers. It appeals to, originally, I know a lot of us used to do website mockups and stuff in Photoshop, and now a lot of people moved on from that. But you choose a channel like photographers. And if I was part of Adobe's marketing department, I'd be thinking, well, how do I think about, what are the things that photographers need help with? They need help with getting clients. They need help with, like, getting work, that kind of stuff. If you don't have clients to edit your photos, you're not going to invest in something like Photoshop unless you're a hobbyist. So, help them be better photographers, and then bring in Photoshop as the way to produce the best finished photos that make, yeah, in the easiest, quickest amount of time or whatever. I think it's hard because it's such a known product that you never think like somebody needs to sell Photoshop any longer. But yeah, I would just think, well, what's one segment of people who buy Photoshop? And I think this is where positioning comes in, because you can position a marketing funnel. So you could say, this is the funnel that leads photographers, wedding photographers, to Photoshop, who they might not know what Photoshop is, but they love taking pictures of weddings, and the bride and the groom want to look great. So let's help, them do that. And then bring in our software as the ultimate way of doing it quickly, and, fixing photos at scale. I don't know.
All right, we are running out of time. We actually have one last little question from Alex. It's about Write Message. Can Write Message easily use first name, website, and company name out of Lead Feeder, etc.? And I'm not familiar with Lead Feeder. Are you?
I assume
Can
we,
it?
I think I've heard it. Is it one of those tools that based on like your IP address, it'll think you work at so-and-so company?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Short answer is if they have a JavaScript API that could say like, on page load, if we've identified this person, we think they work at IBM, we think that their name is Brennan. If they can do that, then you could pass it up in the right message and we can say, hey, Brennan from IBM, hi. But it depends on, we can ingest the data. It depends on can they output the data.
Gotcha. Where can people find more of you online? Where can they find Right Message? What's the best tool for what you just described in your talk today?
Yeah, rightmessage.com is Right Message's website. I also write weekly, a little better at writing than I am on video, and that's at createandsell.co. And there's just weekly essays on email marketing.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much, Brennan, for joining us today. The recording will be available for everybody who's live. And thanks, everybody. Goodbye. Have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thanks all. See ya. Bye-bye.